Today's story comes from Matthew chapter 14, verses 21 through 33, or John chapter 6, verses 14 through 29. As you're listening today, listen for who did the disciples say that Jesus was. This is called trust and doubt. After Jesus fed thousands of people with one boy's lunch, his disciples got into a boat. He told them to row to the other side of the Sea of Galilee. He would meet them later, but first he wanted to pray. Jesus sent the crowd away and went up to the mountain by himself to talk to his heavenly Father. The disciples rowed about 3 miles out into the sea. It was night, and everything around them was dark. The wind started stirring up the waves. The small boat was being beaten by the strong waves. Very early in the morning, when it was still dark, Jesus saw the disciples struggling with the oars because the wind was against them. Jesus came to his disciples, but not by boat. Jesus came walking on the water. The disciples saw him coming toward them, and they were afraid. "It's a spirit," they said. They thought they were seeing a ghost, and they were scared. But Jesus immediately comforted them. "It is I. Do not be afraid." Peter asked Jesus to help him to walk on the water. Peter knew that if the person walking was really Jesus, he could do what Peter asked. Jesus told him to come. So Peter obeyed. He got out of the boat and walked on the water towards Jesus. But then Peter saw the waves churning, and he became afraid. Peter started to sink. "Lord, save me," he shouted. Jesus immediately reached out and took Peter by the hand. Jesus told him that his faith was small and asked him why he doubted. Peter had trusted Jesus until he looked around at the storm. Then he had doubted and had begun to sink. Jesus got into the boat with his disciples, and the wind stopped. The men were amazed. They had not realized that Jesus is really God, even though Jesus performed the miracle of feeding 5,000 people with a little food. But now they believed. They worshiped Jesus and said, "You are the Son of God." What did Jesus do when the crowd wanted to make him their earthly king right after he fed them by a miracle? He sent the disciples to the other side of the Sea of Galilee, and he sent the crowd away. Then Jesus went up to a mountain to pray alone. Do you think Jesus saw his struggling disciples from so far away in the darkness and storm? Jesus is God, and he can see all things. He knows all things, and he can do all things. How could Peter walk on the water? Peter believed Jesus had the power to make him walk on the water. When did Peter start to sink? When he looked at the waves, he became scared and was not trusting Jesus. Who did the disciples say that Jesus was? The Son of God. And what should Christians do when they're afraid? Trust that God can do anything. He can help even if the problem seems too big. Nothing is too hard for God. Remember that. If you are his child, he sees you and he is always with you. Have a blessed day.